What if the financial system has already entered its final stage of preparation, and most people haven't even realized it yet? For years, Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong holders have been waiting for signs that real progress was happening behind the scenes. Today, we're looking at one of the most discussed developments in the currency community, Tier 4B. But instead of relying on rumors, let's examine what this phase is believed to represent, and why so many experienced observers are paying close attention. If you've followed the IQD or VND story for any length of time, you already know this journey has been anything but simple. Investors have experienced years of optimism, missed timelines, conflicting opinions, and endless speculation. Every few months, new predictions appeared, only to fade away. That's exactly why today's discussion deserves a more careful and realistic approach. This isn't about promising instant wealth or claiming that exchanges will happen tomorrow. Instead, it's about understanding why the phrase Tier 4B has returned to the conversation, and why many people believe it signals something different from the countless rumors we've seen before. Whether you're a long-time holder or someone just beginning to learn about these currencies, understanding this concept is essential. So, what exactly is Tier 4B? According to those who closely monitor large financial operations, Tier 4B is often described as the final operational stage before large-scale currency processing. In simple terms, it represents a phase where planning is believed to be complete and institutions begin preparing for actual execution. While the exact details remain confidential, the idea behind Tier 4B has generated significant attention because of what it may represent within broader financial systems. Think of it like preparing for the launch of a major project. Before the public sees anything, months or even years of work take place behind closed doors. Systems are tested repeatedly, staff receive training, security procedures are reviewed, infrastructure is examined from every angle. Only after every department confirms readiness does the project move toward implementation. Supporters of the Tier 4B theory believe financial institutions follow a similar process. Before any significant currency exchanges could begin, banks would need to verify internal systems, confirm liquidity, review compliance procedures, and ensure that every operational detail functions exactly as intended. Preparing for this kind of activity requires substantial time, resources, and coordination. Large financial institutions don't invest in extensive testing simply because someone started a rumor online. They prepare when they believe systems must be capable of handling high transaction volumes efficiently and securely. That is one reason why Tier 4B continues attracting attention. Many observers believe several indicators point toward increased operational readiness. Reports frequently mention back-end banking updates, improvements to payment infrastructure, software upgrades, and expanded compliance procedures. Individually, these developments may appear ordinary. Together, however, they suggest that institutions continue strengthening their financial systems. It's important to understand that banks constantly improve technology regardless of any currency discussions. Payment networks evolve, cybersecurity standards increase, and regulatory requirements change over time. These improvements are part of normal banking operations. However, within the IQD and VND community, some people view the timing of multiple upgrades as an indication that larger financial preparations may also be taking place. Whether that interpretation ultimately proves correct remains uncertain. What is certain is that readiness always comes before execution. No bank can process millions of dollars in transactions without first ensuring that every system functions correctly. Internal testing, security verification, compliance reviews, and operational planning are necessary components of any large financial event. For Iraqi Dinar holders, these discussions carry particular significance because Iraq has spent years rebuilding its financial infrastructure. The country's banking sector has gradually modernized through electronic payment expansion, stronger financial regulations, international cooperation, and banking reforms designed to improve transparency. These developments have strengthened Iraq's ability to participate more effectively within the global financial system. At the same time, Iraq has continued rebuilding its economy after years of conflict and instability. Oil exports remain the country's primary source of revenue, allowing foreign currency reserves to grow during periods of favorable energy prices. Infrastructure projects continue across transportation, housing, energy, and digital services. Banking reforms have expanded electronic payments while encouraging greater participation in formal financial institutions. Each of these improvements contributes to a stronger economic foundation. The Vietnamese Dong also plays an important role in these conversations. Unlike Iraq, Vietnam's economic growth has been driven primarily by manufacturing, exports, foreign investment, and expanding international trade. Over the past 2 decades, Vietnam has transformed into one of Asia's fastest-growing economies, attracting global companies seeking reliable production and supply chain opportunities. Because both currencies frequently appear together in Tier 4B discussions, many observers believe financial institutions may be evaluating multiple currencies simultaneously rather than focusing on a single nation. Whether this ultimately results in coordinated processing remains unknown, but the repeated association continues attracting attention within the investment community. One point deserves special emphasis. Tier 4B does not automatically mean exchanges begin immediately. This is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of the entire discussion. Even if financial systems are fully prepared, actual execution still depends on authorization, regulatory approval, institutional coordination, and timing. Preparation and activation are two separate stages. Imagine an airplane waiting on the runway. The aircraft may be fueled, passengers seated, pilots ready, and engines running. Every system has been checked and confirmed. Yet the plane cannot take off until air traffic control gives final clearance. Readiness exists, but authorization still determines the exact moment of departure. Many supporters use this comparison when explaining Tier 4B. If the theory is accurate, they believe financial institutions have completed much of their preparation and now wait for final authorization before moving forward. Whether that authorization comes quickly or requires additional time remains impossible to know with certainty. For investors, this distinction is extremely important. Preparation should never create panic. Instead, it should encourage organization. If significant financial activity were ever to occur, responsible holders would benefit from having accurate records, secure storage for their currency, updated identification documents, and established banking relationships. These practical steps require no speculation and remain useful regardless of future outcomes. Another important consideration is compliance. Modern financial institutions operate under strict anti-money laundering regulations and identity verification requirements. High-value transactions often require documentation confirming ownership, identity, and the legitimate source of funds. These procedures exist to protect both customers and banks. Anyone expecting large financial transactions should understand that verification is normal. It is not a barrier designed to prevent exchanges. Instead, it represents the standard operating procedure followed throughout the international banking industry whenever significant sums of money move through regulated financial institutions. Emotion also plays a powerful role during periods like this. After waiting for many years, excitement can easily replace careful thinking. Social media often amplifies every rumor, encouraging people to react emotionally instead of logically. Unfortunately, that environment also creates opportunities for misinformation and scams. Experienced investors understand the importance of remaining calm. No legitimate financial institution guarantees secret exchange opportunities, exclusive private rates, or immediate overnight wealth. Genuine banking procedures operate through official channels with documented compliance requirements. That's why information discipline matters now more than ever. Rather than chasing every headline, successful investors focus on verified developments, realistic expectations, and long-term financial planning. Whether Tier 4B ultimately leads to significant activity or simply represents another stage of preparation, staying informed without becoming emotionally overwhelmed remains the smartest approach. As we continue, one question rises above all the others. If Tier 4B represents readiness, what could happen next? That's the question thousands of IQD and VND holders continue asking. While nobody outside the institutions involved can confirm an exact timeline, understanding how large financial systems normally operate helps explain why this stage receives so much attention. One important fact should always be remembered. Financial systems rarely move overnight. Even after preparations are complete, banks still need final authorization before large-scale transactions can begin. Internal readiness and public execution are two very different phases, and history shows that institutions always prioritize stability over speed. If activity eventually moves beyond the preparation stage, exchanges would almost certainly be handled through regulated financial institutions rather than informal channels. Banks would be responsible for identity verification, transaction reporting, compliance reviews, and ensuring every exchange follows established financial regulations. The process may sound complicated, but it's actually standard practice. Every significant financial transaction today is subject to verification requirements designed to protect customers, financial institutions, and the integrity of the banking system itself. Large currency exchanges would be expected to follow the same procedures. Because of that, preparation becomes far more important than prediction. Instead of worrying about exact dates, experienced holders often focus on practical readiness, keeping your currency secure, maintaining accurate documentation, updating personal identification, and ensuring banking information is current are simple steps that reduce unnecessary stress later. Another important consideration is transaction sequencing. Many people imagine that if exchanges begin, everyone would immediately be processed at the same time. In reality, financial institutions typically manage high transaction volumes through organized scheduling and controlled processing. Some exchanges may move more quickly than others depending on account verification, banking relationships, transaction size, and internal procedures. That doesn't necessarily indicate problems. It's simply how modern financial institutions maintain security while handling large numbers of transactions efficiently. The emotional side of this process deserves attention as well. That is why disciplined investors continue relying on official information, reputable financial reporting, and realistic expectations instead of sensational predictions. Staying informed is valuable. Becoming emotionally driven is not. One phrase often repeated by experienced observers is simple: watch systems, not speculation. Real financial changes are usually visible through institutional activity rather than social media excitement. Banking modernization, regulatory updates, compliance improvements, infrastructure investments, and international financial cooperation often provide stronger indicators than anonymous online posts. This is one reason Tier 4B continues attracting discussion. The government has continued investing in infrastructure, expanding digital banking, improving payment systems, and strengthening relationships with international financial organizations. Oil exports remain an essential source of national revenue, while banking reforms continue encouraging greater transparency throughout the financial system. These developments have gradually strengthened confidence in Iraq's long-term economic direction. The Vietnamese Dong follows a different path, but shares one important characteristic: long-term economic growth. Vietnam's manufacturing sector, export industries, and expanding international trade relationships have made the country one of Asia's strongest developing economies. Because of these economic fundamentals, the VND frequently appears alongside the Iraqi Dinar in discussions involving future financial developments. Whether these currencies ultimately move through similar operational processes remains uncertain. However, many observers believe their repeated appearance together reflects broader financial planning rather than coincidence alone. Another important subject involves expectations. Tier 4B, even according to those who closely follow it, should never be interpreted as a guarantee of immediate wealth. Instead, it represents the belief that institutional preparation has advanced significantly. The final outcome still depends on authorization, implementation, compliance, and numerous decisions made by financial authorities. Understanding that distinction protects investors from unrealistic expectations. Successful investing has always rewarded patience more than emotion. Those who remain organized, informed, and flexible generally make better financial decisions than those constantly reacting to every new rumor. Markets change, policies evolve, and timelines shift. Preparation provides stability even when uncertainty remains. Security also deserves continued attention. As discussions surrounding IQD and VND increase, so does the possibility of fraud. Scammers often target investors during periods of heightened interest by promising secret exchange opportunities, private banking programs, guaranteed rates, or exclusive early access. Legitimate financial institutions simply do not operate that way. Any genuine currency exchange process would occur through regulated banks operating under established financial laws. Identity verification, transaction reporting, and compliance procedures would remain standard throughout the process. Protecting yourself means remaining skeptical of anyone promising certainty before official announcements are made. Another valuable lesson comes from observing how major financial transitions have occurred throughout history. Whether involving currency reforms, banking restructures, or monetary policy adjustments, institutions almost always prioritize order over speed. They test systems thoroughly, communicate procedures carefully, and implement changes through controlled phases designed to minimize disruption. If any future IQD or VND processing follows a similar pattern, patience will remain one of the most valuable qualities investors can possess. Looking at the broader picture, Tier 4B discussions are significant because they emphasize readiness rather than speculation. Even if the exact timeline remains unknown, the concept itself encourages investors to focus on practical preparation instead of unrealistic promises. Organizing records, protecting assets, verifying information, and maintaining realistic expectations are valuable strategies regardless of when future developments occur. Ultimately, no one can accurately predict the precise day financial authorization might occur. What investors can control is how prepared they are when genuine developments emerge. That means following verified information, avoiding emotional decisions, and recognizing that meaningful financial transitions often happen quietly before they become widely visible to the public. As this story continues to unfold, one thing remains clear. The discussions surrounding Tier 4B have renewed attention toward both the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong. Whether viewed as an important operational milestone or simply another stage in an ongoing process, the conversation highlights the importance of preparation, patience, and disciplined decision-making. Rather than chasing every rumor, successful holders continue focusing on facts, monitoring institutional developments, and remaining ready without becoming consumed by speculation. If future announcements eventually confirm broader financial activity, those who remained informed, organized, and patient will likely be in the strongest position to respond confidently. Until then, the smartest approach remains unchanged. Stay informed, stay prepared. protect yourself from misinformation. And remember that in the world of finance, readiness often matters just as much as timing.